Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. So the clue was too easy. I think that's the case. That was the consensus because a lot of you got it really quick. we we had put a clue up in the community section over who, and we're about to start a week where we're going to focus on one artist. We do that occasionally, mainly if that artist has a larger discography, we can kind of spread it out a little bit, talk about a lot of other little things. And we put this clue up. Editor can throw it up here real quick. So we put that clue up, and very quickly people got the answer. Now, a few people guessed, but not correctly, but logically so. Elton John, right? Because the Yellow Brick could be reference to his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, therefore Elton. Well, it's not Elton John, although we'll do Elton John at some point. Pink Floyd, right? Pink Floyd, the Yellow Brick. Well, I thought I was being real clever here, but there were two references there, right? I mean, the Yellow Brick. Well, first of all, it just looks like a brick wall, the wall, right? But making it yellow was also in the Wizard of Oz reference with the connection between Wizard of Oz and this album, which actually we'll talk about in this video. So that'll be kind of a fun little precursor to everything else in the week. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, Pink Floyd. Now, when my editor and I were looking at images, trying to figure out what clue are we going to throw out, it was between that one. It was between that one and one other one, and I just want to show you the other one now because I'm curious because we had this discussion for a little while, and which one should we use? And he put this other one up that he came up with. I didn't get it. He's like, I don't get it. And he's like, oh, come on, everyone get this. So I'm curious. So, editor, if you could put up the alternative clue we discussed, show it to the people. All right. Anyone get that? Obviously, it's a Muppet. What's the connection to Pink Floyd? Well, my editor informed me that's obviously Floyd. It's the name of the Muppet, who's in the band, right, with Animal and whoever else. Uh, I mean, my point when we were discussing it with editor was like, well, you know, Kermit, Fozzie. I mean, people know the basics, but unless you're a kind of a Muppet fan, I mean, I didn't know the name of the what I would consider a minor Muppet, but I don't know. So I'm curious. Hey, you put in the comments. Would you have gotten the alternative clue? I would not have. I wouldn't unless I did research on it or something. Try to find it. Well, all right. That aside, it is Pink Floyd. And so how the week's going to work real quick is, today we're just kind of talking about the clue, and I also want to talk about Dark Side of the Rainbow because it's part of the lore, right? And I don't know if you noticed, this was the best Sid Barrett shirt I could find in my wardrobe, so I'll be wearing this as I make these videos. But Tuesday will probably be the meat. I mean, of the week, the one that I think most people will be interested in, where we will rank and discuss the 15 studio albums of Pink Floyd, and that'll be a task, but that'll be fun. That'll be good. That'll be fun. And then Thursday, there's so much else to talk about with Pink Floyd. So Thursday, I kind of set aside for talking about live albums, comps, bootlegs. Got a few bootlegs, books, videos. There's just so much, other things related to Pink Floyd out there, which are significant. So we can set all that stuff aside on the Tuesday or the Thursday. Dark Side of the Rainbow. Let's knock that out right now because that is a fun topic and something that our editor here and myself we tried it one time. Did it the old school way, which I think you should. where you try and line it up. Right? You go on YouTube now, you can find some people have kind of done it for you. Although I will say some of the ones I found on YouTube weren't quite lined up correctly. And even if it's just slightly off, it doesn't have quite the same effect. Well, what am I talking about here? Well, most of you probably know. Dark Side of the Rainbow refers to watching the classic film The Wizard of Oz, but with the volume all the way down, so you're watching it with no volume and instead listening to, while watching The Wizard of Oz, again, the Dark Side of the Moon album. And as some people claim, magic happens. There is some sort of synchronicity there that is magical. Other people who have done it, I don't see it. So that's another thing I'm curious about in the comments. How many of you guys have tried it? Have you guys actually done it, watched it? And what do you think? Does it work or not? So I remember when my editor and I did it. We did it years and years ago, just for fun. And well, why else would you do it? But anyway, uh, I think both of us had sort of mixed reactions. It works in some places and not so much in others. That was kind of our reaction to it. So, how did this start? you know, I mean, first of all, who was the first person who actually did this? Because in the research that I've done, I can't find that. There's not like one incident or one person who has come out and said, "I'm the one who started it." As far as I can tell, at least, I've kind of did some online research. This emerged at some point in the 1990s, mid 90s was when people started talking about this. We call it Dark Side of the Rainbow, Dark Side of Oz, um, you know, the Wizard of Floyd. There's different terms for this phenomenon, supposedly. All right, so how do you do it, first of all? Well, if you're syncing it up, if you're not just relying on somebody else to do it on YouTube or something for you, well, first of all, you need to use the CD. I mean, so this obviously emerged in the '90s during the CD era, so it's legit. I know we love vinyl here. It's going to be way too hard to do it on vinyl with a record. You got to do it with a CD because you got to be able to start it, hit the, have it paused, and then hit the play at precisely the right second to go. And that's just too hard to predict when you're putting the needle down on the vinyl, when the music's actually going to start. Especially this one, especially Dark Side of the Moon, since it kind of fades in, right? So I mean, you've got to be able to hit that, have it lined up on the CD. So you would hit play and then pause it and then go back to the very beginning of the first track. So it's ready just to, once you hit pause again, it's ready just to go immediately. You're not even wasting a second or two. The CD starting to spin. And you play it at the third roar of the MGM Lion in the opening. Okay. So, the MGM Lion roars 3 times, the third roar. And you got to sync it up there. Now, what I was reading is, it's synced if you're getting to that transition between Speak to Me and Breathe, and on screen it is the credit for Mervyn LeRoy, who I guess is, I think, one of the producers, is fading out. So during, produced by or whatever, Mervyn LeRoy, that's the name, and that's fading at the same time that Speak to Me and Breathe are, fading from one to the other. Okay, I mean, there's, that's what I've read. So, does it work? I think parts of it works. There's like three areas that I think really work. One is the tornado scene. So remember in the beginning, before Dorothy's in Oz, she's living in Kansas. The tornado comes. Her family's already, down in the tornado cellar, and she's arriving at the house, and she's trying to, frantically get in, and the storm's blowing everything. You see the tornado coming in the distance. During all of that, Great Gig in the Sky is going. That really works, because of the dynamics of the song. And there's one moment in particular that really, I think, I don't know, if you don't, maybe stop this if you don't want it to be spoiled and you want to experience it completely on your own. But so, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you some of the spots where I think it really works. And the moment where, she runs into the house, she's panicking, and then, I don't know, she kind of loses like she lays on down on her bed and sort of loses consciousness. Like, right at that moment, the dynamics shift in the song, and and she's like, looks like she's kind of going into dreamland, and it gets really dreamy. It's like that. Wow, that actually really works. And then, and then it builds up again, and then all the images through the window and all that. That works. And when the house lands and she then opens the door upon Oz, and it becomes Technicolor and, Munchkin Land, that's right when Money starts. And, you hear the sound effects, right, in the beginning of Money. And she's like looking around. That really works. That's pretty cool. And as Money continues, right, and the Munchkins come out, and they start talking to her, and then they start dancing around. That like really works with Money too. And because when they start dancing and start getting kind of crazy is right when the song builds up again to the final guitar solo from David Gilmour, and like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Something else, if you really haven't synced up, when the Munchkins are marching, they're marching in time to the song Money, which has an unusual time signature, right? It's like 7/8, I believe. And that's really weird. That's really weird. And then a little bit later, the third part where I think if I remember right, working really well was when she meets the Scarecrow. And that happens to be during the song Brain Damage, which of course he's looking for a brain, right? And then he kind of starts doing his crazy dance, and that kind of works. The rest of it, I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think. And I know there are, I mean, you can go online and read about it all, but there are all these like lyric connections, supposedly. I focus more on the music, but you know, there was one when we did line it up pretty well. Uh, it's in Money, where he says, "Money, get back," and right when he says "get back," the Munchkins like kind of, you know, move back and hide in the bushes, and that was pretty cool. So anyway, of course, you got a problem, right? The album ends and the movie continues. So we didn't. Editor and I just did it once through and then stopped. But supposedly, then you're supposed to restart the album and then start it a third time, and then the film will end at some point during the third run through of the album. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. I don't know. Something else that's really interesting. People have found this synchronicity with Dark Side of the Moon and some other films. I'm not joking here. I'm serious. There, it is a thing to also line up Dark Side of the Moon with Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. Like really, like that's the thing. And I've never done that, but supposedly it kind of works. Now there, if you go on YouTube, just type in like Dark Side of the Rainbow, and then there's actually like videos of people breaking this down and analyzing a lot more than I did. And there's one video, I mean, you'll find it if you look through them, where this guy, I mean, hats off to him. He did Dark Side of the Rainbow, then he did the Paul Blart thing, but he did this really interesting experiment where he then just picked two other films, that it wasn't famously associated with. I remember one of them was The Godfather, and then I don't remember what his fourth one was, and he like did it with all four of them, and just to see, was this really a phenomenon with The Wizard of Oz, or The Wizard of Oz and Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, or did it kind of work off and on with anything? And it was interesting. His conclusion was there were in fact, he actually found more synchronicity with Paul Blart than he did Wizard of Oz, by the way. He actually has this whole scientific thing where he rates it, and he had rated the Paul Blart the highest. But it kind of worked with some of the others too. And he came up with an interesting conclusion, which I agree with, where he said he thinks part of it is the music on Dark Side of the Moon is kind of cinematic in its nature anyway, right? It's really moody. I mean, you know the album, really moody, kind of soundtracky in a way. I mean, there's some kind of long instrumental passages. A lot of it kind of is just sort of dreamy and it like that kind of emotion just really fits with a lot of visuals. And so just naturally it's going to kind of work with a lot of visuals. And I think that's the case. That's something I really agree with, thinking about it. It's sort of the cinematic nature of the music on Dark Side to begin with. And then, I was reading on some other website about it too, that our our minds, like if you have two things going on, like the imagery on Wizard of Oz and the music from Dark Side, our minds are going to try and sort of make the connections. It's just sort of how our minds work. So maybe it's part of just our minds working. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking way too deep into this. It's just a fun thing. Somebody figured it out. But all right. That was just a little appetizer. So I'm just kind of basically letting you know what we're going to be doing this week. So on Tuesday will be our first like big video, and then Thursday will be the wrap up video, or the other video on some of the other stuff. But Tuesday coming up, we will be ranking this huge, fascinating discography. So please do tune in. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Like the videos. It really helps us do what we want to do. And we'll see you Tuesday for ranking Pink Floyd's studio albums.